What is up, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from Athlete Factors. This is the Athlete Factors podcast. My guest today is Matt Fox from Sweat Elite. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, Kevin. I really appreciate the invite onto your podcast. Very honored, and all is going well down here in Valencia. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm in Dallas, and I just as I was looking through your LinkedIn, I saw that you went to Texas A&M. So
Wow, I did. I guess not many people know that, nor do I often bring that up. I guess because it's so long ago now. 2007, yes, 2007. I spent a semester at Texas A&M. I was on a full scholarship there as a 19-year-old. So that's 15 years ago now. And it wasn't for me. You know, I was injured the whole semester. I found it a little bit tricky with the culture shock at that time as a 19-year-old. Going from a surfing culture on the Gold Coast in Australia to the middle of Texas was not easy for a 19-year-old that hadn't traveled much at the time. So, but sorry to answer your question. I did some time ago now. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm here in Dallas. I came down to Texas from Ohio to do an internship during college and loved it. And so then I came back down here to Baylor for grad school, and then made my way in back to Dallas, and I've been here since 2012, and I love it. So aside from
Dallas is a cool city. I've been there a couple of times. Yeah, so I've been back to Texas a couple of times since that experience at Texas A&M, and I mean, I love the state. It's definitely a place that I like to visit. I think, as I said, just as a 19-year-old, I think moving there was a bit of a change, and it didn't help that I was injured the whole time. But no, it's cool to hear that you're based there. And what's the running scene like in Dallas? I'm not actually very familiar.
So DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, is like the biggest adult multi-sport market in the US. So tons of marathoners, Ironman, sprint triathlon, Olympic distance, stuff like that. So there's tons of people in the area who are running, swimming, biking all the time. That's the majority of my clientele are adult endurance athletes and youth distance runners. So I'm training for a 5K the first weekend of March in San Antonio. So lots of good stuff around here. So.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I gotta get down there at some point. I mean, I haven't had any opportunities yet with athletes based in Texas. I mean, we tend to sort of put a list down of athletes that we'd like to have on our. I guess we'll get to the YouTube stuff soon, but I guess we haven't yet come up with anyone in Texas, but hopefully one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So, sure. How did you start the channel? What was kind of your thought process behind getting to that? And how is it so successful so fast?
Well, I'm not sure if I actually know the answer to that 100%, but I mean, so Sweat Elite started over 5 years ago now. We started in sort of October 2016. The domain sweatelite.co renewed for the 5th time a couple of months ago now. And I guess, depending on where you want to start with the story, I guess I'll start at that point to begin with, and feel free to shoot any questions through from there. But we started off just with text articles and ebooks for the first 2.5 years. That then led to a podcast because we realized that was something that was getting really popular around 2017, 2018. And then we decided about a year and a half after that, in the middle to the end of 2019, that, cut a very long story short, and through a few meetings, we decided that we really wanted to get into video. We thought that was a space sort of left open. FlowTrack used to do a lot of Workout Wednesday videos, which everyone loved, and they sort of dried up. And why that happened, no one really knows, I think, except themselves. But we decided at the end of 2019 to move into that space. So I actually moved to Boulder at the start of 2020. And COVID struck a month and a half after that, which really put a spanner in the works of the plans. So, I mean, I went home to Australia. I panicked and went home. I basically booked a flight and left that day on March the 20th, 2020. I have asthma. So at the start of COVID, that was a real concern for asthmatics. People were like, is it going to be much worse for us? I didn't have the right insurances or healthcare set up in the US at that point. So I thought, influenced by my parents, really, who I'm close with, I rushed home. And I ended up staying home for a full year. I actually got stuck there with the travel rules, I couldn't get out for a while. But yeah, got back to the US in April 2021, and we did the first video with Parker Stinson. We published it on May 17. And look, to answer the question is, how has it grown so fast and how has it become so successful? I don't really know. We've just put the video up. We've put the videos out. We've tried our best. We've really tried to learn from comments, from feedback, athletes' feedback, coaches' feedback. We often learn a lot of things just from people commenting on the channel, saying you should add this, you should add that. Of course, we don't take all of those comments seriously. Sometimes you get silly comments and so on, but we've just tried to refine and progress along the way. And it's honestly taken me a bit by surprise how many views we're getting. I was on the Running Effect podcast a few months ago, and he asked this similar question, and I said I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know. I just put them out there and hope for the best. And luckily, we've had some strong interest in it. So I just hope that we can continue to do that.
Yeah. So speaking of FlowTrack, like I used to love the videos that they were putting up. And then some of it, I think, was a little bit of a paywall. Like if you wanted to see all the content, you've got to pay. And so I was like, So I think maybe that was part of it, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, I was looking up videos
I'm so sorry for the sirens. It's going to go in a moment. There's I'm in Valencia right now. I'm racing the Valencia 10K tomorrow, and it sounds like a fire brigade going past the window. Sorry, it shouldn't be too long, but hopefully you can't hear that.
just barely. So
yeah, cool.
So you were just in a bit of a tangent, but you were just in Copenhagen with another athlete, correct?
Yeah, I was. Sorry, just
there it is.
All right, it's gone now. I was actually in Aarhus, which is a few hours drive north of Copenhagen. I didn't go to Copenhagen. I guess most people like myself up until pretty recently only knew of Copenhagen in Denmark, but there are other towns. And I was in Aarhus, which is actually smaller than Copenhagen, but it's got more athletes in Aarhus. I'm not really quite sure why, but no, I was there filming two athletes, one of which has been published already, Thijs Nijhuis. He's Denmark's #1 marathon runner, 210. He's won 13 national championships for Denmark in multiple different distances, 1500 through to the marathon. I've been pretty close friends with him for 3.5 years. I met him in Kenya on one of my first trips. And Jakob Dybdahl as well. He's the 3K steeplechase national champion. His video will be published in a couple of hours. I've just finished it and it'll go live very soon. So yeah, awesome. I went up there to visit Thijs. He's been sort of asking if I can come up for mostly just to hang out and go for runs for a while now. And just with all the COVID rules, it's been pretty hard to schedule in. But the time finally came that it worked, and I had a good time. It was definitely cold. Probably quite a bit colder than where you are right now, but it was good fun. But it's not. I'll tell you what, it is nice to be back down in Spain where it's a lot warmer now. So good fun.
That's got to be awesome. So do you have you got a time goal for the 10K tomorrow?
I do. I want to run under 30 minutes. That's the goal.
Okay, let's go.
My best is 30:39. It was from 2 years ago now, and I guess. The week after I ran 30:39, I ran a 2:27 marathon, but I ran a 2:20 marathon about a month and a half ago. So I'm definitely fitter in an aerobic sense now than back then. I've done a time trial at altitude in 30:46, which equates to about a 29:45, but that's not official, obviously. So we'll see how we go.
That's awesome, man. Well, best of luck. I can't wait to look up the results and see your name way up there on the low.
Hopefully. I don't know if I'll be way up there, because I must say this race is very strong. I mean, I personally know of, I'm not saying I know them personally, but I know of at least 25 males that are faster than me in this race. Wow. At least. And that's just the people that I know of. So, I may come 80th to 90th in this race and also run close to 30 minutes. So it's very strong, this race. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thijs, he was shooting for what, 28:20-ish, somewhere around there?
He's shooting for the Danish national record, which is 28:25.
Gotcha. Yeah. So he's going to be moving. That's awesome. Yeah. That's exciting.
I think he'll do it.
Yeah. He looked pretty good in the video. So he looked real smooth.
Oh, you watched that? Cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He did look good.
Yeah. So I found the Sweat Elite channel looking for videos of NAU athletes and Coach Mike Smith. And then I found, one of the videos that y'all had done, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then Paul Chelimo, and then Sara Hall, and I'm like looking through all these, and I'm like, holy cow. There's like very few sports where you can get this close to seeing these elite athletes train. And I think like that's what, like, it just sucked me in right away, because I'm like, this is the type of stuff that like helps keep me motivated to train. Like, not like the like not just seeing people race really fast, but like seeing them grind. Like, seeing these people, like, they show up, they're just people too. They show up, they put in the work, and they do it consistently over, long periods of time, and that's where the magic happens, right? So how did you go about, like, first reaching out to people just to be like, hey, can I film you doing a workout?
Yeah, it pretty much was just like that. I mean, what helped us? What helped us was having the business and the brand there already. So a bunch of athletes, I could reel off at least 10 names probably that said to me at some point along the way, they said, you guys have been around for a while, haven't you? And they almost say in a sense of like, I've probably read an article or two of yours a few years ago, but like, and I think just having that brand awareness helps, because it's more just, oh, well, this company's been around a while. They've been in the game of media for a while. So they're not just a random thing that's asking for help or asking for a video.
Yeah.
But I sort of had briefly connected with Parker Stinson before. And when I was in Boulder and I arrived, I sent him a message and said, we're about to launch the videos. Obviously, at this stage, we had not a lot of people lined up. And I told him that the other videos coming soon would be Jake Riley, who's qualified for the Olympic Games at that point. Sara Hall had sort of agreed, but we hadn't firmed anything up. And then he just said, yeah, let's do it. He was coming back from an injury, and I guess he'd been on the sidelines for a while, so he wanted to get out and do some media. And then really it's just gone from there. I mean, I think that people often ask, like, what do you think the turning point was to be able to get a lot of athletes on? And there were really two turning points in my mind. I think Sara Hall was a big one. She was, I really should make sure I know this one, but I'm pretty sure she was episode 5, or it might have been 4. And those ones really helped, because I didn't even ask her afterwards to share anything. I just hoped that she would, but she shared it a lot on her Facebook and Instagram. And then what happened as a result of that, Molly Seidel, for example, who agreed, she said she watched those videos of Sara Hall. And the other turning point was Paul Chelimo. Like, those Paul Chelimo videos were so fun and so good. Mostly thanks to him and his training group that was so outgoing, so easygoing, and so forth. Once Sara Hall and Chelimo were both up there, in the first 15 episodes, it became significantly easier to get other athletes on. Like, it was almost to a point where males, it was like a 90% sort of strike rate. Females a little bit lower for a reason I'm still not fully understanding at this point. It's a little bit harder to have the women come on, and the reasons could be anything, ranging from, some have even said that they don't think that they're in their best shape, so they'd rather do it later. And, I mean, each their own, but yeah.
Sure.
So it's pretty much started by just asking Parker to come on, and then it went from there. So
that's awesome. That's so cool. So, when I was just getting into running, high school, early college, like, it still kind of felt like you could ask other people, like, hey, so what's your training like? What are you doing? But it was almost like this sort of, I'll give you this amount of information about it, but I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, because I think what I'm doing is a little bit secret and a little bit special. And like, I feel like the more I learned, the more I was like, okay, is there anything that's actually secret? Like, is there anything that anybody's actually doing that is so groundbreaking, that's so profound, that like they're trying not to tell anybody else? Like, the concepts for improving your running performance are, I hope, pretty well established. So it's like, maybe there was a shift kind of in the whole running community where it was just kind of like, all right, we're not going to play that game anymore. We all know what we're doing here for the most part. And do you think you could have done this same thing like 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, because I'm fully with you in a sense of like, So I was competing pretty seriously in middle distance events between 2006 and 2013. So I was a 148, 800 runner, 345, 1500 runner. So I was sort of in the top in the national final in Australia over 800. And at that point, I do feel like a lot of the training was a bit secretive. You know, I had similar conversations to what you've said, that sometimes you'd ask athletes and coaches for information that give you bits and pieces. I really think that attitude has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, to the point where now you see very few athletes in that boat where they're like where they're like, they think it's a secret. You still have some. I mean, I'm going to throw my housemate in Boulder under the boat here. I'm not going to because he thinks that it is still like a playbook and it's secretive. And I disagree with him firmly. I just don't think that's true anymore. But he thinks it is. He thinks that people logging on Strava at professional athletes is crazy, and I don't. I think it's actually very smart. I think it's a way to engage with people better. If you're sharing your playbook more, I think it's definitely a good thing for the sport. And I don't think that there's such thing as that anymore. I do think 10 years ago there was. When you ask the question of could I have done this 20 years ago, absolutely not. Well, there's a range of reasons why. I mean, YouTube wasn't even around to begin with. I think they started in 2001, but still, like, even sharing the principles of training back then, very few people were doing that. But more time goes on. I mean, it's crazy really to think that 5 years ago, there was very few pros on Strava, and now there's a lot of pros on Strava. And that only happened in the last 4 or 5 years. So it's interesting in that sense for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I follow like Joe Klecker and Molly Seidel and Sage Herda and like tons of people on Strava. And it's like Connor Mance. Like I think it's so awesome that like I can see every single day, like, oh, Connor ran two workouts today, and this was his morning run. And like, I think that's so, it's definitely educational just from the perspective of like, you can see like almost real time what these athletes are doing. There's not this veil of like, oh, I'm maybe running 100 miles a week or maybe 140 miles a week, and you'll never know. But like, you can, obviously like people can do workouts without their watch or without uploading it to Garmin or Strava or whatever. But I think that level of transparency, I think that's huge for the sport.
Yeah, so I think it is too. I really do think that there's way more upsides in sharing that as a pro than downsides, because I'll never forget when I was in Ethiopia a couple of years ago, and I didn't even mean to meet Mo Farah. He was just there in the same place, and we're sort of all sitting down at the table. And we were talking about this in a similar way, and he said something along the lines of like, yeah, I mean, you can give people my training plan if you want, but like it's not gonna, like, it's really hard. It's a really hard training, like, good luck sort of thing, like, and it's true. He said something, it's a couple of years ago now, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it was something along those lines, like, yeah, go and take my training, and good luck with trying to do that. It's extremely difficult. So like, and it's true. And, unfortunately the cold hard truth is that a lot of it does come down to natural talent and ability. But a lot of it comes down to being determined to get through those 100 to 120 mile weeks that he has been doing. I just use him as an example because I overheard him saying that. But I really don't think. I mean, Renato Canova, one of the best coaches in the world, especially over the marathon, 10K through the marathon, he'll tell you, if you ask him for like the 10 weeks of training leading up to one of his athletes' 205 marathons, he'll just give it to you. Like, he'll just give you the whole thing. He knows it's not the secret. And he'll probably say something like, try it if you want. Good luck.
Yeah. Because there's no guarantee just because you do the training. Like, you still have to show up and you still have to race. Like, it's still so much of a mental thing. Like, race day is like, yeah, I put in all this work, but I still have to work really hard today. And
I mean, Buchart, I filmed Andy Buchart last week, and I'm going to film him again next week. And he, I don't remember if he said it on the camera or off, but he was basically like, so much of the performance comes down to like confidence and your mentality in a race. Like, his training is similar to athletes that he trains with in Scotland that are like 30 seconds off him in a 5K.
Wow.
Like, he's run 13:06, I think it is, and he trains with people that have run 13:30. And he says they're pretty similar. But when he's in a race, he's just, he didn't say this, but he's just a really good racer. Like he's just he came 6th at the Rio Olympics in the 5K. I think he was 10th at Tokyo.
Wow.
You know, one of the first non-Africans in both races. And it's just all about, I mean, his training's not that crazy. It's just that when he gets to the line, he's just an animal. He just knows how to race.
I love that. Like, I love how there's certain runners who, like, their whole game plan is like, I'm only going to do what I do, you know, in my workouts every day because I know I can execute on that. And then there's other people who show up and they're like, I'm going to race out of my mind today. Like, I'm just going to. So I love that.
Yeah, it really is like that. It's really quite fascinating. And I mean, I remember when I was when I was training for the 800, I was regularly training with a guy called Lachlan Renshaw, who was a 145 guy. He won the national championships about 4 times. And we were the same in training all the time. Like, and I was often just confused as to why he'd beat me by 2 or 3 seconds in every race.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge in the 800.
Yeah. It was quite frustrating, actually. But it's just, he was just such a good racer. I think he won 3 or 4 Australian National Open Championships and went to the Olympics, London, I think, or maybe Beijing. But it's really interesting how it all works.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about, like, what was your start in the sport of running? Like, what's your background? What got you into that? You said you're from Australia and did a little surfing, but where did running come into play?
Yeah, so I was actually, as a 17-year-old, I had my sights pretty firmly fixed on playing Australian football. Footy, that's right. Yes.
I'm a Collingwood fan.
Oh, wow. You actually know some teams. Wow, that's impressive. For an American, that is rare. That is rare. Yeah. Well done. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Collingwood's a good team. They've had a strong last decade. But I mean, for anyone unfamiliar, the easiest way to know what Australian football is to throw it into YouTube and just have a look at what it looks like. It's very different to any other sport. But cut a long story short, that was my sort of goal to, and I guess I was sort of in the gray area where I wasn't a guarantee to make any team, but I was also in the state team as an under 18-year-old. There's 8 states, and I was sort of, a couple of clubs had sort of reached out and asked some questions. So I really needed to play well in that year of the draft when I was 17. And in the first game of the year, I had a really bad accident and broke my wrist and was out for the whole year, which is devastating for a player at that age. It's like pretty much limits your chances of making the AFL to very close to 0.
Wow.
Unless you're an absolute superstar where you're guaranteed, they'll probably. But anyway, what I was thinking was, well, I've always been a reasonable runner. So what I'm going to try and do is get as fit as possible in the running and hope that next year I can come out and win the 3K time trial in the drafting, tests. And they can then say, look, we'll give you a chance when you're 1 year older to make the AFL. But what happened was I trained really hard. So the first game of the year is in March and I broke my wrist in that game. And then I started running within a month of that when my wrist was good enough to run. And then cut a long story short, by December, I placed 5th at the under 18 national championships in the 800 meters.
Wow.
Having trained just for that year. And then my coach at the time sort of said, a really good coach, his name is Anton. He said, you now got a decision to make. You either try and play the AFL, which your chances now are probably very close to 0, or you can try and make the Olympics in 2008. So this was 2004 at the time. And, placing 5th in the under 18 national championships led me to believe that was possible. But there was actually something in between those two, and it was the World Junior Championships in 2006. So I tried to make them. Unfortunately, I fell 1 place short. I came 3rd, and they only took 2. But that then made me think, well, the Olympics is possible. Unfortunately, I didn't ever qualify for the Olympics. I came 5th at the Australian Championships twice. Had a range of injuries, but I guess we all do through that period. But that was really my intro to running, was off the back of a football injury. And I mean, if you want to fast forward more, that sort of middle distance phase lasted 7 years to 2013. I then took a few years completely away from the sport and worked a few full-time jobs in investment banking and a couple of marketing roles. And then I started Sweat Elite in 2016. So now I'm doing marathons. I don't know how that happened, but somehow did.
So how old are you?
I'm 34.
34? Okay, so I'm 35. I took I injured my back in college. I thought I was going to go to the U.S. Olympic trials in the steeplechase. That was my race.
Wow, okay.
And then hurt my back. And then I was like, well, I guess that's kind of out of the question. So then I had always wanted to coach. I'd always want to work with endurance athletes. And so I kind of followed the route of sport performance, strength and conditioning, injury rehab, things like that, just because athletes who basically only go one direction tend to have a lot of overuse injuries. And I experienced a little bit of that myself. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to run for like a decade. So basically yeah, from from like the end of grad school to like 2 years ago, I just didn't really run. So like, one 5K a year, like nothing, basically nothing. And now I'm like, all right, the past 2 years I've been getting after it. So it's
good for you. Back.
It's so awesome. I love it. And I wish that I was doing like at 35, I'm so much more consistent. When I was running in college, I like despised the long run. I like just didn't really do it. I just most Sundays I would just take off. Like I just like, I need a day off. I'm just not going to run. And like
coincidentally, it always happened to be a long run day. I guess that was like me actually for a while too. Yeah,
it's like, why was I such an idiot? Why didn't I like? It wasn't difficult to just like get some sort of consistent pattern, but like my pattern was always like, my recovery days, I'm probably not gonna go as slow as I should. I'm probably gonna go a little faster. And then the long run days, I'm gonna take the day off. Like, why was I so dumb, Matt? What was my problem? But so when did you become a student of the sport? Like, so the Sweat Elite website is like a compilation of all these articles and these collections of, the way that Eliud Kipchoge trains and the way that Sebco trained and the way that, all these, like, when did you dive into like the coaches' philosophies and how these super elite athletes are training, and like, why did you want to collect all that, and kind of what's the story behind that?
I reckon it dates back to about 2010, really, in the middle of my middle distance sort of stint or career, if you want to call it a career. I guess I stagnated between 2008 and 2010, where I didn't really improve. I got stuck on 148, 800 for about 3 or 4 years, and I never actually broke that. And I think at that time, I just started to really go, why can't I improve now? Like, what is it that I'm doing wrong, or what is it that I'm not doing right? And so I just started to read a lot. I read a lot of Sebco stuff. I read a lot of, I met Steve Ovett, and he actually sort of advised, he lives in, I don't know where he lives right now, but at least at the time he was living in the same city as me in Australia. And his son went to my high school, a couple of years younger than me. And I just started to become really curious about like middle distance at the time. I actually at the time had no interest in the longer distances, and I didn't have any real plan of starting any website or anything at that point. And that sort of led me down a path for a few years of just becoming really curious about it. And then I got to sort of a point where I was coaching a few people just as I was finishing up as a 26, 27-year-old in the middle distance. I started to coach some younger athletes. How that came about was just sort of through connections and networks. And then it just led from there. And then I sort of took 2 years away, as I said, sort of 2014, 2015. And I was still a little bit involved in running, but I wasn't really running myself. And then I just thought to myself, after those 2 years, I saved up a bit of money. I thought I was sort of heavily influenced by a few friends and a few sort of other podcasts, I guess I'd listened to. Tim Ferriss's podcast was a big influence on me. And I just thought, I'm only 27. I want to truly, really try and see if I can start a business of some sort in the next 5 to 10 years, because I think I can always go back to doing this marketing stuff. And I just thought one of my close friends I was living in Finland for a while. One of my close friends in Finland started and sold a company and had a big windfall of money. And I thought that was really interesting. Not necessarily chasing the money. It was just more the fact that he created something from nothing and and just built a really interesting business out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I want to try and do that. And look, there was a few false starts, a couple of businesses that sort of didn't really go anywhere, including actually a mobile application called Sweat Mobile, which was very similar to Strava back in 2015. I think we started it. Me and a few guys, we basically wanted to create the Strava for running, which I know sounds ridiculous now because Strava is running. But at the time, it was just cycling in 2014, 2015. That's all it was. Well, there was running functionality, but no one used it. So we tried to, I know. I'm sure there's plenty of people laughing right now at how silly that sounds. But I will say that back then, there was very few runners on Strava. I mean, we asked around and all the people that we knew that were runners weren't using Strava. So, but the timing was really bad because Strava sort of launched into running right around the same time as we started. They invested a whole lot of money into it, so we got crushed. But yeah, I guess I went away from your question. I think I really became more curious about it around then, and then I just thought there's not really any media publication that caters for like serious runners. Like there's Runner's World, which is probably more targeted towards someone that wants to maybe finish a marathon or do a 5K under 20 minutes. And I just thought I asked around a few friends. I had a bunch of friends that were really pretty quick over the marathon, faster than 2:30, some even faster than 2:20, some females under 2:45. And they were all like, no, we don't really read anything. Like we read individual books here and there of, Salazar at the time, Canova, etc. And I just thought, well, maybe we'll try and make one. And it took a while, but then I think in the second year, sort of 2017, I really started to notice the page views were really climbing. Like we started to see quite a lot of traffic to our website as a result of just Google search indexing and search engine marketing and search engine optimization. So I think I really thought that there was something to this business in the second year. It did take about a year and a half for me to really believe in it, and that's a while. It's quite a long time. People often look at it now and go, "Wow, that's amazing." And I think, well, it is amazing, but it took quite a long time to get here. So, and from there, we've just tried to add more to it. Podcast, video, and it's just about sort of trying to create as much content as possible for people to be able to absorb and engage with.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised about how many videos you put up, and it's all the time. And first it's like this one from Kenya, and then this one's in Mexico City, and then this one's in you're all over the place, man.
Well, they're not all me. I will say that.
Okay.
We've had a couple of people. Well, so I think we've got 90 videos up now. I think I've done about 60, maybe 55 to 60. I should know the exact number there, but I don't. Angus has done about 20 to 25. So Angus started with us in August. How that came about was pretty interesting, actually. It was more that he's not a co-founder, but his name's Tate. He's in Australia. He's written most of the articles on the website. He sent me a message in August and saying, one of my friends from South Africa that I've done quite a lot of riding. Tate does a lot of long distance cycling throughout the world. He does these long ventures around Africa and Europe. He's really into it. And he did this long cycling trip a few years ago, and he met a guy called Angus, who's Angus doing the videos. And he said, I know a guy in Kenya right now. He's at a charity a few hours down the road from Iten, and he's looking to maybe do some work after the charity thing. Would you be interested in talking to him? And I said, yeah, what's his skill set? And he said, well, he's into ultra running. He's done videography. And I said, that's perfect. If he can stay in Kenya, then that's great. And so I got on the phone to Angus, and then next thing you know, he moved to Iten, and he's loving it. He's doing really well. Some of his videos have seen over 100,000 views, probably about 4 or 5 of them now. Most of them see between sort of 20 and 70,000 views. And then there's been a couple of other videographers that have done a few things here and there for us. But yeah, I have not done all of them. That would have been impossible, especially given there's one coming from Kenya and then one coming from UK. And then
yes.
Yeah.
I
wish
I was
had
confused for a minute.
all that, but I can't afford that. So yeah, but right now it's actually in pretty rapid growth mode. I'm sort of hiring people around the world right now. I've got 2 in the UK that have just started. Well, one's starting in a couple of weeks. Nice. I'm meeting one guy in 2 days' time from now in the south of Portugal. He's actually from Switzerland, but he's down at a training camp down there. He's been filming for the Diamond League events, so he's actually really experienced.
That's
and
awesome.
hopefully he'll be joining us. Not confirmed yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really trying to set it up so that we've got videographers all around the world and all the hotspots, so we can deliver as much content as possible. So it's really exciting what's coming. Yeah,
That's so cool, man. I'm pumped about it. Like, so I'm 35. Like we covered that, but like, so here in the U.S., USA Track and Field, some Masters events start at 25 for track and field.
really?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, we're way into the Masters category at this stage.
Exactly. So I'm pumped. Like, so I thought, like, I go to the USATF website and I'm like looking at Masters stuff, and it says like, you know, some stuff starts at 25, some stuff starts at 35, and then I'm like getting back into relatively decent shape. Like, I think I could, you know, do decently well in some Masters 5K road races and cross country and stuff like that. And then I find out like, oh, that doesn't start till 40. But for track and field, like I can do some, you know, some Masters stuff. So I'm super pumped. I'm super excited. And then I see the video that you put up with, is it Paul Forbes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this 65-year-old guy throwing down 300s in 50 seconds.
I know.
What in the world?
I couldn't believe it when he was doing it. I mean, I a few days earlier, I did 10 300s at the same pace, and I thought that was pretty hard. And I was like, how is this 65-year-old doing 48 to 50 seconds? I was like, this is insane. No, he's an impressive guy. I mean, he ran 145 for 800 in the 80s. So he's obviously got a background of speed. He ran 215 for an 800 just before Christmas. And then we were lucky enough to film his workout straight after that, which was the 300s that you see on the YouTube channel. That was good fun. I didn't really know what to expect in that one. That was obviously a different one because we're normally filming athletes that are just the best in the world in the Olympic events, I guess, not the Masters or Paralympics, but we're definitely interested in doing more in that space moving forward. Yeah. It actually came about because we were supposed to film Eilish McColgan that day, and cut a very long story short, she had to sort of postpone / cancel last minute due to family stuff. So the day was sort of left open, and the guy I was staying with, Colin Thomas, who's a sort of a top level sports scientist in the UK, who I met in Kenya a few years ago. I was staying with him in Glasgow. Apparently, I say that wrong every time. Anyway. It's in the top of the UK. And anyway, he sort of said, well, I think I might be able to organize another project for you. I said, well, what is it? And he said, Paul Forbes. And I said, I've heard that name. Like, what? Who is that? Tell me who that is again. I'm sure I've heard of that name. And I Googled him, and quickly I saw all these news articles about him breaking world records as a master. And I thought, this will be different, but I think this will be fun. And it was fun. So yeah, it's already had sort of 17,000, 18,000 views in sort of a week. And I think looking at the comments on that thing, people really appreciated something a little bit different.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I work with quite a few Masters age group, you know, athletes, and so I like my client Andy. He's in his early 60s. I'm like, dude, look at this, and he's just like,
yeah.
No way, this is awesome. Yeah. Like. So that gets me, you know, fired up to go out and brave 20 degrees yesterday morning. You know, just like watching
minus 5, I think Celsius. That's really cold. Yeah,
it was really cold. Yeah. Still got a decent, you know, drop down progression run. When it's that cold here in Texas, like nobody's out, which is nice. Like had the whole road to myself, and you just got to find a place where there's no wind, and you know.
What's your sort of goal in the 5K? Do you want to share it on a public podcast?
Yeah, no, I'm all about getting that out there. That helps keep me accountable. So
it does.
So right now I've got a sub 35 10K goal for March.
Nice.
My PR, like, so I was kind of like 800 to 3K steeplechase. That was kind of like my wheelhouse in college. I was like low 153 in the 800. My best steeplechase was about 911. So like decent, but
good, yeah.
For like 5K and 10K, I like never did. Like I think I had one 5K cross country race. I went like 15:30s. Like it was like first race of the season. And I was just like, eh. And then 10K, I did like one 10K road race during the summer when I was in college, and I went 33:40. So I think I've got a way better shot of PRing in 5K and 10K in this year, next year. You know, I think I can slowly, incrementally.
But a 153 background in speed is really helpful. I think just
sure.
knowing that you've got that capacity to run a really quick sort of 400 even. I mean, if you run 153, you would have had to have run 51 or 52 for 400, I assume. And 49. I think that's like 40, even faster, 49. Yeah. I mean, at the slowest 52, right? Like, you know, you can't really run 153 without being able to run at least 52 or 51. But I think that basically says that your potential to improve those 5K, 10K times is potentially quite large. So that's really interesting. If you're limited to a 55-second 400 speed, then one could say, oh, maybe that person doesn't have a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
But you do. So it'd be interesting to see how you go.
Yeah. So I coach it's a homeschool cross country and track team here in Dallas. And I mean, we have like 60 kids. We have tons of kids, middle school and high school. And like my goal is to stay one step ahead of all these kids.
That's fair. That's
why I do it. That's why I do it. I do what I do because I love it. And so I can be like, I'm 35 and I think I just beat you.
Yeah. Your mileage graph will correlate exactly with their improvements, like up.
Exactly. That's right. So what are some of the big lessons that you've learned just from your running career? Like from racing and from training? What are I assume the entire goal of Sweat Elite is to help people run faster. So what are some of the things that you've learned personally from your life that you've told athletes that you've trained or coached or people that have asked you questions about these sorts of things?
I tell you what, I've learned a lot, and I reckon some of my opinions will be a bit controversial and maybe not really agreed with by a lot of people, to be fair. And I think the big one in my mind is I've never really been good at putting this into words, so I'll try. But when I and this was heavily influenced by going to Kenya and seeing what they do. So I think I used to think that it's important to be very serious, very that's not probably the right word, very structured, very strict on everything, very careful about. I used to think like this. Very making sure everything is perfect in line, making sure that everything is organized, making sure that you have an exact training plan that you stick to, and the recoveries are exactly 2 minutes between your 400 intervals and all that stuff. Now, I actually don't think that at all anymore. I think that's I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong, but having that mentality often leads people to unhappiness in a way, or just like placing so much pressure on themselves to perform that when they don't perform very well, it's really, really quite tough. I've been there. I think a lot of people that I know have been there. And I think going to Kenya and meeting all these athletes that are just way faster than anyone I've ever met that really don't know what they're doing training. I mean, it's not that they don't know what they're doing, but I mean, I met a bunch of guys that have run 2:07, 2:08 for a marathon, which is faster than any Australians ever run. And they don't even really have a plan. They just more go, on Tuesday there's a track workout, so I'll just go down to that and do whatever they're doing. And then on Thursday I'll do a long tempo run and I'll join a group doing a 60-minute or a 20K tempo run. On the weekend I'll run for 2 hours with a bunch of guys, and in between I'll just jog around. And that's really how a lot of them do it. And and they don't really care what they eat that much. Although admittedly in Kenya, Iten more specifically, there's not a lot of choice with food. It's mostly, fruit, vegetables and chicken, and there's very, very little junk food around there. So they're kind of lucky in a way that they're not exposed to that stuff. But I've been to Kenya 5 times now, and every time I go, I just come back thinking it's just these guys, all they want to do is they want to train really hard 2 to 3 times a week. They want to do enough volume. They want to run every day, or 6 days a week at the least. And when they get to a race, they just try and win. That's all they care about. Because a lot of the time, when you win, they win enough money to feed themselves and feed their kids for upwards of 5 years or at least a year. Because in Kenya, to live, most of those people would live off $2,000 to $5,000 a year, sort of thing.
Wow.
I mean, rent and food there is. I mean, a lot of them grow their own food, but rent is very cheap. We're talking $100 to $150 a month, sort of thing, even less. And all they do is try and win. And as a result of winning races, I mean, it's a very simple concept, but if you just keep winning races, eventually you're going to run really fast. Because if you just keep winning and then you get put into a faster race and you just keep winning, eventually you'll just run a really fast time because you'll be forced to. So I think that's a big lesson in my mind. And now I'm not really very strict with a lot of those things, and I'm improving quite a lot over the longer distances. I think I said it earlier. I ran a 2:20 marathon a couple of months ago, and rewind 3 years ago, I never expected I'd run that fast. I thought I'd be capped at about 240, 235. And I think I've done exactly what I've just said. I've just haven't really been too strict about anything. And I think the reason why I said at the start that it's controversial is I reckon a lot of people would be listening to that last few minutes going, that's weird. I don't know if that's right. But I'll tell you what, I know a lot of people that have sort of done the same thing and have found it quite successful, and they've actually improved a lot. So I don't know, there's something maybe even in the psychological space there that maybe if you just don't put so much pressure on yourself and you just try and race to win as much as possible. I don't know, but it seems to definitely work for most people that I know. And that's the big one. There's a few smaller ones, but I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. Yeah. And I honestly think that probably my 800 meter progression back in 2007, 2013, probably a lot of it was as a result of just being really, really crazy strict about things. I reckon that didn't work. I just don't think that helped me at all. Yeah.
You become a slave to the structure, and then you're at its mercy. And
I remember taking it so seriously that in 2010 I had a bad year when I just couldn't break 150 for that year. I think it was. And I remember at the end of the year I was so depressed. I considered quitting. I basically did quit for a few weeks, and I was just like feeling like the world had ended. And I just thought, thinking back to that, I'm like, why was I so serious about it all? And now if I race poorly, I mean, admittedly, I'm not really trying to make the Olympics anymore, but now when I race poorly, I just have a beer and move on and just pick the next race.
Shake it off.
So it's
bounce back quick.
Yeah, it's just why so serious? Like, I just don't think that helps. Just trying. I mean, ultimately, why are we doing this? It's for fun.
Exactly. If you're not enjoying the process because the process is too structured, there's too much order, then it's probably not going to last.
Exactly. And I really recommend people, if they can, if they have the budget and the time to go to Kenya one day and get amongst it for a couple of weeks. Probably even a week is enough, but ideally 2 weeks. I don't have to say any more or give any more tips there. I just go, just go meet athletes, and you'll just have it's really insightful for sure. Yeah. I mean, they're the best in the world for a lot of reasons. There's probably about 5 or 6 reasons why they're the best, but one of them is this reason for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy because we get we're so locked in, I got to upload my Garmin to this. I got to sync this. I've got to.
I'm not going for a run unless my Garmin's charged.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
a lot of people are like that, and I've been there too. Yeah. If
it doesn't sync, then it doesn't count.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that, Matt, but if you don't upload it, then it didn't happen.
I know. You don't get anything out of it if it doesn't sync.
It's a true story. Yeah. I'd have nightmares at night if my watch broke.
Yeah, that'd be the end of it, man. You'd have to quit.
So that's super interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
So what are some of the things that you've learned from watching these elite athletes?
Ooh. I would even say that what I just said has been reinforced even more, especially from athletes such as Paul Chelimo, Andy Buchart. These guys, I mean, you can just tell by watching the Paul Chelimo videos that he is just exactly like what I just said. He's really laid back. He often cuts workouts short when he knows that he's done enough. Doesn't care about it. You know, I don't remember which one it was. A certain amount of 200s, and he cut it like halfway and just went, "Oh, it's enough. I feel good."
Wow.
Yeah. It was like 3 weeks before the Olympics too. You know, like a really critical time, and he just like. I mean, it didn't hurt him. Obviously, he still came third at the Olympics. But I think that was reinforced more. I don't know if I've learned any more than that, mainly because I spent 4 years before starting this video stuff studying this stuff. So a lot of the lessons were learned in that phase. No, nothing really more than that specifically. Yeah, I think I've learned little bits and pieces. Like, I think one thing I have learned. This is one more thing is that and this is a really common thing in the US. I spent a while in the beginning of the marathon career when I started running marathons 4 years ago, truly believing that in order to run your fastest marathon, you need to do 100 miles a week. And I think a lot of people still believe that. And that's just not true. It's just not true at all. Now, mileage per week is not an easy subject because there's a lot of variables to it. One large variable is how much lifetime mileage you have. So, you know, I don't remember exactly how long you said that you took off, but I started running when I was 18. So it's 16 years. I basically took 2 years off in the middle there. So 14 years of running. And so I've really learned over the last couple of years as a result of some conversations with Nick Willis, some conversations with other runners. Not some that I wasn't even in the conversation, some I just overheard. And I think lifetime mileage is a big deal, and whereby if you have a big base of running in your legs for a long time, you can actually get away with doing a lot less mileage. So before I ran 220, of which, I think I was capable of running a bit faster than that. I struggled with some muscle cramps in the last 5K, which probably lost me 2 to 3 minutes, but that's part of the marathon. My maximum mileage for that block was about 70 miles per week.
Wow.
And a lot of my weeks were closer to 60. So that's very low for a 220 marathon.
Sure is.
I focused I was really focused on quality work. So I really nailed the long runs. I think I did 8 or 9 long runs in a row of over 18 miles. So that was very helpful. But yeah, I think I've really learned that. Like Morgan Pearson is do you know Morgan? Yeah. He's a fascinating example of someone that does about 50 to 60 miles a week. Yes, he does a lot of cycling. And he ran a 61 and a half recently.
It's crazy.
Off 55 miles, I think it is, per week.
Yeah.
So, you don't really need to do those long miles. Yes, they can help you. I'm not saying that's wrong either. But I mean, I tried that high mileage for a year, and I just had tendonitis problems all the time.
Yeah.
And so I obviously couldn't handle it. Whereas other people can handle it, I can't handle it. So I just said to myself, I'm sick of entering marathons and not getting to the start line. I'm tired of spending all this money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the strategy here, focus more on quality, less on quantity, and just make the start line. And yeah, I really learned a lesson there. So that was as a result of my own trial and error, but also some of the projects with the athletes and talking to them more about their mileage. Yeah.
That's awesome. Because yeah, like I was kind of the same way in college. I think I really started to feel like garbage once I got over 70 miles a week. And so during like cross country season, like I'd keep it to like between 55 and 65. And then during track season, it was probably like 45 to 55, just because there was so much more emphasis on, some speed work. But like right now I'm hitting, I don't have like a weekly goal. I just like tallied up at the end of the week just to see what I'm at. And I'm hitting between, like some weeks I'm hitting 20 and some weeks I'm hitting 40. And like, it just kind of, it's a little bit of a wave. It kind of fluctuates a little bit, but yeah, like I prioritize the long run and I try to get 2 quality sessions aside from that. And then the other days, like I'm just really running slow. Like I've run deliberately slow, which I never ever did. And just to make sure that I'm like, all right, like keep my heart rate below 150 and just have a really good workout tomorrow, but like don't waste this opportunity to recover today. And so I think that's a big one, man. Like
it gets drilled into our head at a young age, like the whole no pain no gain thing, and it's just not true. Not true at all. I mean, I'm sure that when you go out for a 60-minute run when you're jogging, that's not painful, but you're getting a lot out of it. Maybe you're not getting a lot out of that particular run, but like building 20 or 30 of them over time, you're getting a lot out of that. So I think I definitely have fallen into the camp of thinking easy runs are sort of pointless, but they're not pointless at all. I
think like the whole goal of like what you were saying about, Paul Chelimo, when he got to a certain number of reps and he's like, I'm done. Like if you're sending the signal, like, and it's a potent enough signal, then if 5 reps does it, but you're scheduled for 10 reps, like why, like minimum effective dose, why would you risk injury? Why would you risk, quote unquote overtraining? Why would you, if 5 miles gets the job done, why would you do 10? Like you're diminishing returns.
Yeah. And this links back to the thing I was talking about earlier. Like, I don't really know why, but the Africans seem to be able to listen to their body better than us in general. Like I'm really like bundling us all together in terms of like US and Kenya. Of course, there's exceptions, but in general, Paul Chelimo he's a Kenyan. Of course, he competes in the US, but he's an African runner, born runner. And you can just tell by the way he acts in training that, like, when he cut the workout short, he knew he minimum, like you just said, minimum dose is enough. He probably realized that if he'd done a couple more reps, his lactates would have risen really high. It would have been harder to recover from that. And he was probably thinking, I don't need that right now. I'm fit. I'm really fit. I've done enough. I've done enough. So let's go home and let's recover.
Yeah, I think, being able to do that. And like, so as a kinesiologist, I do that all the time. Like if somebody comes into me and, they've got knee pain and I'm assessing what's wrong and it's an issue with, their hip abductors. And I'm like, okay, I'll write up on the board, like, here's your homework. You're going to do this exercise, this many reps. But then I get finished with that and I'm like, but honestly, if you do 3 reps less because you can feel that glute med like burning, like if you feel it working, if you're sending the signal, then like don't get caught up on like the reps. Like what's the intent? Like the intent is to achieve this feeling or to achieve this outcome. And if you get that, then you did it. You did what you were supposed to do. So it's trying to like tell myself that, though, that can be tough sometimes. So
it can. Yeah, it definitely. I mean, you don't really see a lot of younger kids doing that. I think it takes time. It probably takes hanging around with guys like Chelimo to be very effective, to be influenced. But I certainly was not like that as a middle distance runner. I mean, I wish I was, but I wasn't. I was bad. I was to the point where, like, if I had 10 400s to do in 59 seconds was the goal, and I got to 8 and I was cooked, I would thrash 2 more out at like 65. Like that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, you have to do it. So, it says 10.
Yeah,
paper says 10.
Training program. Yeah, I'd be like completely dead in the last one, like running the last 200 super slow, and that's just pointless. It's really pointless.
Just garbage, just flailing.
Yeah, technique is gone out the window. It's I mean, but you live and learn, right? It's something that you just have to. It's not easy, and it's not like anyone can instruct you to do it. I think you have to figure it out on your own.
I think you're right. So, it's 2022. It's a new year. What plans do you have for your own training and just your personal life, and then what can we expect for Sweat Elite in 2022?
Sure, I'll start with Sweat Elite because I think people care more about that. I do too, to be fair. Well, I think it's a really exciting time for us right now because the videos have been so well received, which has surprised us too, that it's given us the ability to expand more globally. So right now we are in the process of having 3 or 4 videographers in Europe, 2 in the US, and even 1 in Japan, who's hopefully getting started in the next month or 2. Awesome. I'm speaking to a guy there that's sort of getting started now with some big corporate teams. And the vision really here is to be the number 1 media company in endurance sports. And we're not going to stop at running. We'd like to also really expand into triathlon and sprints, so cover the whole realm of running and endurance. Cycling is another beast in itself. I'm not really quite sure how to tackle that one, or if we ever will. Maybe we might not. But triathlon, we have a lot of inroads to. I've been doing Gwen Jorgensen's YouTube channel for a few months now. She's the Olympic champion over triathlon 2016. I'm sure you know her because she's obviously from the US. And her manager / husband, Patrick, is pretty interested in what we're doing, obviously, and he's looking to sort of join the team in one way or another, whether it be an investor or a shareholder. And he manages Lionel Sanders and a whole lot of professional triathletes. So it's quite a natural progression to move into triathlon for us. And sprints as well. After this trip down to Spain, Portugal, I'll be going back to London to do the sprints. We've sort of partnered with a sports management company in London that manage a lot of sprinters. So our vision here is really to be the video, the channel where people can really learn a lot and watch professional athletes and coaches talk about training and actually train. Yep. And I think that we're on the right path. I want to, you sort of said it earlier when you said I'm all over the place. I have been, and it's a lot of that's tiring. A lot of it's really quite tiring, especially during COVID when there's a lot of COVID rules and tests to be done.
Sure,
it's been difficult, and I do want to limit the travel a little bit now. So I'm trying to set people up in areas so that we've got consistent video coming from those areas, and I can stay in. I live in Boulder now in Colorado. And I'd like to spend most of my time there and not doing so much international travel. So that's 2022. I'm looking forward to listening back to this podcast at the end of the year and hopefully pulling off what I've just said. So, we'll see.
Fingers crossed. With the way things have gone since I started, watching your videos, like it doesn't seem too far-fetched to me. Doesn't seem out of the question. So
I hope so. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I really think we're trending in the right direction. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but I've recently hired basically a CEO who's a longtime friend of mine. I mean, we don't want to call him we're a small startup. We're not going to call each other chief executives at this point. But no offense to people out there that have CEOs in small companies, but he's basically the managing director, because that's not really what I want to do. I'd rather be sort of head of media or video because that's what I think I'm good at and I want to do. And he's basically going to be managing the business moving forward. So he's going to be steering the ship. He's a very high level sort of corporate manager in Australia. Nice. That's going to be doing this too. So yeah, he's going to be very helpful in just sort of making sure that the investors coming on board are the right people. We're using the money in the right way, because I don't really want to spend my time doing that when he's got more experience doing that anyway. So yeah, that's it's the team's grown from 4 to 8 in the last 3 months alone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited about it. Keep the content flowing. I'll keep telling everybody.
I really appreciate it, man. Like I really appreciate you telling other people about it. I'm stoked that you get excited about it. And when you asked me to come on the podcast, I quickly looked up the podcast and noticed that you'd done over 100 episodes and thought, let's do it. So awesome. Thanks for having me on. For
sure. So for everybody watching and listening, like how do they find you? How do they find Sweat Elite?
I think the best place to find updates is probably the Instagram and Facebook, mostly Instagram. I feel like that's the place that most people share their updates these days. That's where you'll sort of see what we're doing all the time. But the YouTube channel, subscribing to that is where you'll see all the videos. The Instagram is just basically sharing highlights and previews and so forth of the videos and anything else. So I'd recommend, if you just want to be in a place where you can sort of regularly see updates, it's Instagram and YouTube. Our website has 420 something articles on training. I mean, you can check that out too. But I think what's most interesting to people right now is the video stuff. And our subscribers have surpassed 54,000 in 8 months now, which is something I never would have imagined when we started. We really want to hit that 100,000 within a year. I think that's the goal now. So got to get one of those plaques apparently.
Man.
We'll see. But sorry, I went off the topic. Instagram and YouTube I think are the best too.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm gonna do my best to help get you there, man. Get you to
Thank
that
you.
100,000.
Huge. I really appreciate that, and I'd be more than welcome to come back on in a few months and whatever if you want to sort of talk about updates. I'd love
Sweet.
that. So let me know.
Let's make it happen. We'll schedule it.
Cool.
Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've really enjoyed it. Awesome convo, and best of luck to you and to the team and to Sweat Elite in
same with you, man. Just a quick one. How do we track your progress in this 5K? Are you on Strava as well?
I'm on Strava. I just followed you the other day, so I'm on Strava.
If I didn't follow you back, I'll make sure I do that now. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Yep. I'll make sure.
Kevin Kuhn.
I want to see it.
KUHN.
Okay.
So,
awesome.
I'll
get you back on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna break 35. I'm gonna so I did just a little story just to let you know, like, I'm fired up, I'm ready for it. Like a couple weeks ago,
cool.
I paced a buddy of mine through a 15K, and I ran with him the first 10K, and like I didn't really know what kind of shape I was in, but I was just like, yeah, whatever. He wanted to run like 7-minute pace, 7:30 pace. So the first 10K just ran with him. And then I was like, this last 5K, I'm just gonna let loose. I'm just gonna see what happens. And came through in like 17:25.
Whoa.
So like for me, like having not run, I hadn't raced 5K.
That was your last 5K?
That was the last 5K of the 15K. So I was just
that's
like,
that's faster than 35-minute 10K pace, that last 5K.
Exactly. So I'm like, all right, I think I can probably do this. So at this point, like the training has been going really well. Like yesterday I did a progression run. I went 6 flat, 5:53, 5:49, 5:35. And I was like, oh, I think I could probably do this right now. I think I could break 35 right now. So at this point, it seems like a conservative goal. So I still have 8 weeks of hard training. So maybe 34, maybe sub 34. I don't know. We'll see. But
that's good for you, man. That sounds like you're already almost pretty much there. Yeah. I mean, if you can run a 15K and finish the last 5K at faster than your goal 10K pace, then that's a good sign for sure. Yeah. I don't think I can do that. I mean, I can't run a 15K and do the last 5K in under 15 minutes. I don't think I can do that. So,
we will see. We will see.
Yeah.
So, but alrighty, I will go follow Sweat Elite.
Yeah,
like,
you,
subscribe, do all that stuff, and dude, let's check in 4, 5, 6 months and
see how we're doing then. Yeah. Hopefully we've done some of the things I've said at least. Shoot big.
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks again for your time, and everybody watching and listening. Stay tuned for next episode. Adios.
See you guys.